So it's time to do my 2020 recap just like I did last year. So starting in January where I left off the last video, I think Kira was either still there or just come to visit, and we went around and just explored Panama, and baby Belen was just like a little baby, so we saw her a couple times. So I filmed 3 weddings this year. The first 2 were I think in like February, and then the 3rd one I filmed was in September. Filming my first wedding, I filmed one for some people that I knew, and I remember I was like kind of getting interested in it, and this guy came over that I knew had just gotten engaged, and I was like, I ran down and I was like, Dad, ask him if he would let me film his wedding. And so Dad asked him and they were like, yeah, sure. Pretty much through that month we hadn't heard anything about COVID, which was like the big theme of 2020. I might have heard like one thing about it from Marky. He told me about a Chinese friend he had that apparently had been in lockdown for a couple months, and I was like, that's crazy, like somebody's locked down because of this? Because quarantine before to me sounded like some crazy thing that only like if you get alien dust on you, you have to quarantine, like stuff like that. So I was hanging out with the Tomwits a lot still, and we were going skating in the Clayton Park like all the time. So then in February, that's when like COVID stuff really started affecting us. We went up to Reno to visit Grandma for the last time, and in the airport they asked if we had been to China in the last 14 days, and I was like, no, like that's weird that they would ask. And I remember seeing a couple people in the airport wearing a mask, and I was like, what is wrong with these people? Like I thought it was so strange. So we went up to Reno and Mason joined us, and we just visited Grandma and went around and kind of just traveled around, but we mostly were taking care of Grandma and just loving her. I remember I would like read the Bible to her because she couldn't read anymore, so I would sit next to her and I would read the Bible to her, which was really sweet. In March, this is when quarantine happened. I remember Matt was like, okay, we're gonna get quarantined, and I was like, what? And my dad was like, no, we're probably not gonna get quarantined, like that's crazy, they can't lock us down. And they did. So I remember I was at the Tomwits house, and like we were really hearing a lot of stuff about COVID, and like a lot of people starting wearing masks, and I remember like making fun of people wearing masks because I thought they were so weird and like crazy and stuff. So I was gonna go back to my house from the Tomwits house, and there had been some like protests and road blockings because they didn't want people from the city going into the interior and bringing COVID with them. And I had to get back home, and I was scared to go on the bus by myself in case there was a roadblock and I like got stuck. So I was like, Marky, come with me and just like stay at our house for a couple days and then you can go home. So he was like, okay. So I convinced him to come with, and he came with me on the bus, and we get home, and then quarantine started and we were locked down, like lockdown. It first started with just being a curfew of like certain hours, and then it got more intense where it was 23 hours a day, and then it was like male and female days, and you only have an hour to go out on certain times according to your passport. And
right as it's my hour,
yeah, dude,
it starts raining. It's raining, but we're going for a walk anyway because we don't usually get to go for walks. So to come into the store, you have to be wearing a mask, and they check your temperature, and then you have to put on hand sanitizer, and they only let 50 people in the store at one time, which isn't a big deal for our town because our town is so small. But yeah, it's crazy to have to wear a mask in the grocery store. That's wild.
it was really crazy. I went to the store 3 times, which is the only place you could go during quarantine. I went 3 times in our like 11-week lockdown, and every single time I saw the cops or I got stopped by the cops, and they would ask me where I was going and like what I was doing. So in quarantine, it started in March and then it went through April and most of May. So in April we were just in quarantine, we were in lockdown, and we just like worked out every day, and we just kind of hung out and did stuff around the house. Quarantine was a lot of fun. I remember just like scaring Marky daily. May 25th, we finally got, like, the airport was closed down, and every single month they were like, okay, next month we'll open it up, next month we'll open it up, and they just were not opening up. So we finally got a humanitarian flight to the US, and we left on May 25th, and we flew into, I think, Fort Lauderdale, and the flight was crazy compared to everything. Like I'd just flown in February, and it was pretty normal, but then when we went in, we had to go in 4 hours early, and we had like thermal like cameras on us to see if we had fevers, and we had to wear a mask the whole time, and it was like just super strange. The whole, like, we were the only flight going out of the airport, so the whole airport was just shut down. It was just so weird. So then we get to the States, and we finally have like freedom. So we got to see the Faldies, and then we got home, and we just started like having our normal summer, and we just swam and ran around and went up the mountain and did all sorts of fun stuff. Just like the normal summer things. We had a campfire going like non-stop every single night. Sometime in June we had the family reunion, which is always so much fun. It happens every other year, and this year just happened to be the year, and it was so much fun. We always look forward to the family reunion. And Leland pulled up with 3 4-wheelers, and it was so fun. We went out to Reno for Grandma's funeral, and all of us kids went. Mason joined us later, but we went on like this 18-mile hike through the mountains of California, and it took us like 3 days, and it was so crazy and tiring. Kieran went back home, and then we met up with Mason in New Mexico, and we like stayed in a yurt, and we went camping, and I slept in the car for like a week. I didn't sleep in an actual bed for like 3 weeks. And also during this time I was taking my first like college course. I was taking 2 college classes, and it was so stressful. I lost like half of my hair. My hair was just like falling out. In July I also went to the Faldies house for a couple weeks, and I just had like the time of my life. I always have so much fun at the Faldies house. The vibe in Clover is just my favorite, and I'm gonna miss them when they leave. I'm gonna miss them so much. In August, I figured since we were gonna be here for a couple more months that I would get a job because I wasn't doing anything. So I applied and got hired at Olive Garden, and I started working there. So pretty much through August I worked like all the time, like as much as I could. I got so many hours, and then in September I was like working up and saving money to buy a car, and my goal was to buy a car by my birthday. But then in September I found this one little car, and I like fell in love with it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy this car. And Dad was like, just wait a second, we'll go look at this other car. So we went and looked at my car, which is a 2016 Ford Focus, and it was $7,000. And I drove it, and I was like, this is the car I want. And so Dad was trying to finagle the guy, and the guy was like $7,200, and that's my final price, like that's it. And we were like, we don't have $7,200. Like we went to the bank and we got $7,000 out, and then I was like, that's what I have. And then Mom pulled out her emergency money, and she was like, you want this? Like if you really want it, you can have it. And I was like, yes, I want it. So I bought my Ford Focus. It had 55,000 miles on it, and it's a little gray. It's so cute, and I love it. It drives like a dream. So in September I also filmed my 3rd wedding for Jenna that was here at the house, and during that wedding Mason met his now girlfriend Grace, and they're kind of serious, so we'll see if anything like happens, you know, like in the next year. I don't know. In October our little cabin came that's right across the pond, and we started working on that a lot. We went to visit Kieran for her birthday. Also in October we went to Grandma Faldi's house in Wisconsin for Grandma's birthday, which was over Halloween, and we just had her big birthday, and it was really fun. November, I don't remember anything really happening in November except working.
It smells so bad of weed. It's horrible. Of course we're going in the direction with the Antifa people with their black masks and gas masks. It's been like kind of announced. They've kind of been like, yeah, Joe Biden won.
For December we celebrated my birthday, and a winter storm came in the day of my birthday, so we couldn't go anywhere or do anything. So we just stayed home and like watched movies, and we went and jumped in the pond in the snow. It was so cold, it hurt so bad. At the beginning of December, Mason's girlfriend Grace came to visit us for a night, and we just like, I fell in love. And then we celebrated Christmas, and all the kids were here for Christmas. Parker, Grace, all of us siblings, and we just played games and watched movies, and it was just really fun. We had a really fun Christmas. We also went skating in Charleston. It was like my first time ice skating. Just a couple days ago, I drove down to Charlotte on my first like real road trip, and I picked up Marky from the airport and we drove back together. Today, I got tested for COVID for the first time. We just now went, and I had to stick a swab up my nose and go like did it and try and touch my brain. Probably when I think back to 2020, I think most people when they think of 2020, it's gonna be the year that COVID, like a pandemic happened. Like we went through a pandemic this year. I mean, we're still kind of in it. I cannot believe how long COVID has been going on. I feel like this is a year for the history books. Quarantine really stands out to me, and this summer was just so much fun. And then like starting work and buying a car. June 8th, I got my permit, and I had to have my permit for 6 months. I got my license on December 4th, and then I went back on the 21st to get my 18-year-old license. So now I have my 18-year-old license. I don't have any restrictions. Praise the Lord. Just like yesterday, we finished the little house. All we have to do in the little house is put the roof in there. So this year has been very eventful, very fun and crazy. A pandemic happened. I got a job, I got my license, I got a car, I got a little house, I moved to the US. I'm excited to see what this next year has in store because so much has happened in this year, and it's been a really good year. Yeah, right now I need to go to work. In a couple of days, we're gonna go on a trip to Armenia, but that will be next year's video in my little January segment. That is if our tests come back negative for COVID. Goodbye 2020. I'm kind of happy to see you go. Kind of sad because it's been a good year, but kind of happy too because COVID has been crazy. Bye.